What's good, YouTube? It's your boy SB back here with another sports break. Now, as most of y'all know, this is the week of the NFL draft. And in this year's draft, there's been a lot of talk about who should go high, who should go low, and what each team should do with their pick. This year's draft is full with a lot of talent, and a lot of teams got the chance to improve and get better in this year's draft. So your boy's here to break down the top 10 picks or what I think each team should do with their pick. Without further ado, let's get into the video. The Jacksonville Jaguars are on the number 1 overall pick, and we've known for the past 2 years who that pick is. Number 1 overall, Trevor Lawrence. This quarterback out of Clemson has been talented and has been the consummate pro for his whole college career. Makes all the throws, checks all the boxes, and has been known as a franchise guy since the day he stepped foot on the field. He's been a national champion at Clemson, makes all the throws, checks all the boxes, even has the pretty boy look that the leagues tend to like these days. He doesn't let pressure get under him. He's faced Alabama, he's faced Ohio State, he's faced all the tough competition that he can run into. He's also dealt with adversity, especially this season, and overcame them all throwing dimes down the field, catching his receivers wide open, and even throwing a couple of them open when they're covered. Trevor Lawrence can come into Jacksonville, make a difference almost immediately. He will be a leader on that field as soon as he steps foot in the locker room. Those guys are going to accept him, and Urban Meyer, you better believe, have a plan in place for him to be a dominant quarterback in this league. There's not many misses that you can have in the draft, but Trevor Lawrence is seen to be a transformational talent and is known to be one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Probably one of the draft prospects we've ever seen. He has a very high ceiling, and he's pro ready right now. So I think this is a can't miss pick. They can't get it wrong, and I don't expect the Jaguars to be on the clock very long once the draft starts. Trevor Lawrence is a no-brainer pick for them, and they've been ready for this for a while. I like Gardner Minshew a lot, but apparently he's not the guy, and Trevor Lawrence is not the type of guy you pass up on. So Jacksonville fans should be extremely happy about the player that they're about to get, about their future, seeing that they have a lot of draft picks in this year's draft and have the ability to put the talent around Trevor Lawrence to make them a dangerous team within the relative future. I'll say maybe 2 or 3 years from now. The New York Jets own the second pick, and for me, Justin Fields is the second best quarterback in this draft. But I know that the New York Jets are not going Justin Fields. With the number 2 overall selection, the New York Jets select Zach Wilson from BYU. Zach Wilson is a quarterback who hasn't had a lot of eyes on him playing at BYU. He doesn't get a lot of nationally televised games, and not a lot of people heard about him throughout the season. But when you turn the tape on to this guy, you can see why the Jets are going to take him number 2 overall over Justin Fields and over any other quarterback that's left in the field outside of Trevor Lawrence. This guy has the arm talent to make any throw on the field. He's dynamic and explosive. The only reason I have Justin Fields higher than Zach Wilson on my personal board is strength of competition. Justin Fields playing at Ohio State has seen a higher level of competition than Zach Wilson has seen at BYU. Justin Fields has played in the college football playoffs. He's run against tough teams like Clemson and Alabama, which are proven winners and performed well. That's better competition than Zach Wilson's seen in his whole career. But Zach Wilson is a more talented player. Zach Wilson's a better thrower of the football. He's a bigger size player, and he runs the ball just as hard as Justin Fields. I think the comparison that he has with Pat Mahomes is a little bit overstatement, but it's undeniable what you can see from this kid when you watch the film. As you see here in his highlights, he pinpoints the ball down the field, throws the ball to the accurate receiver almost every time, and it makes it look explosive when he releases the ball from his hands, especially on some of these deep field shots. We've seen this kid evade tacklers, run around in the backfield, and then launch the ball 50 yards for a touchdown. The talent is undeniable. Now he's going to come into the Jets who's a lack of just that, talent. They're going to have to draft pieces to put around him and find a way to protect him. Sam Darnold is not a bad quarterback, but playing for a bad team like the Jets made him look horrible, and he was traded for relatively pennies. But Zach Wilson's going to come in. He's going to make a difference for this team and give them a new breath of life for this season. I'm not expecting much from the Jets. With that being said, they have too many missing pieces, but this is a good start for their future. Getting the quarterback that's going to be a transformational talent for them and get them back on the board and on the right track. I don't think this is a miss for them, even though I like Justin Fields more than Zach Wilson. A lot of people seem to think that the draft starts at pick number 3. The San Francisco 49ers have traded up to be in this spot and have not been quiet about this selection. They're going to take a quarterback. So I have them taking number 3 overall, Mac Jones from Alabama. Now, as I said before, I think Justin Fields is the second best quarterback in this draft. But from what I've heard, their options are really between Mac Jones and Trey Lance. And out of those two options, Mac Jones is the one that you want to go with. Mac Jones is the prime example of taking the opportunity and running with it. This is the first season that he started, and he's parlayed that into a national championship and was able to get his stud receiver the Heisman Trophy while finishing runner-up on his own. Mac Jones is the pure pocket passer. He doesn't mean he's not very mobile, he doesn't move his feet very well, but he's not a guy that gets shooken in the pocket. If the pocket starts to clap around him, he steps up with confidence and delivers the ball down the field. A lot of people give Mac Jones a lot of flack for the fact that he had a stud running back behind him and a star wide receiver in Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle to throw to. But I will argue if he get drafted by the 49ers, he's going to have that exact same thing. The 49ers have been a stud running team for the past 3 years and have receivers such as George Kittle and Deebo Samuel for him to throw the ball to. Now, I don't believe that Mac Jones will be the starting quarterback for this year. Still think that's Jimmy G if he's on the roster. But I also do think that Mac Jones will finish the season as the starting quarterback. Whether that be Jimmy Garoppolo getting hurt or just getting benched, seeing that Mac Jones is the most pro-rated quarterback in this draft after Trevor Lawrence. Mac Jones is going to be a perfect selection for these guys. He's going to fit in perfectly and gives them the best opportunity to win sooner rather than later. They could compete in the playoffs this year in Mac Jones' rookie year if he's the quarterback, and it only is going to go up from here. This selection is great for them. Mac Jones is a proven winner. He's a veteran, and he had an excellent season this year, leading Alabama to the national championship. So I don't think they can miss with this pick unless they go with Trey Lance. I really hope they don't go with Trey Lance. He's the guy that played at North Dakota State. Level competition compared to what you see at Alabama. Even in practice, he sees better competition than Trey Lance has seen his whole college career. So Mac Jones is the guy to go with if you want to win sooner rather than later. For me, Trey Lance is going to need 2 to 3 years to develop to become the quarterback that Mac Jones already is now. The Atlanta Falcons have a tough decision to make with the number 4 overall pick. Do you get Matt Ryan the protection that he needs, or do you get him another weapon to throw the ball to? I think they go with that option. Number 4 overall, they take Kyle Pitts out of Florida. Kyle Pitts is probably the best catcher of the football in this draft. He's definitely the most freakishly talented, and I think he'll help this Falcons team out a lot offensively. I do think the problem with the Falcons lie in their defense, which was extremely weak this season, but getting another piece to Matt Ryan to throw the ball to is undeniable. Them having the wide receiver corps of Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and now Kyle Pitts, they're going to be extremely dangerous in a conference that they're going to need all the weapons to go against to keep scoring with the Buccaneers. I think that Kyle Pitts is a can't-miss receiver. He's the best hands in the draft, the best size, and even though he plays tight end, he can generally line up in the slot at wide receiver. My comparison to this guy is Travis Kelce, and you don't see talent like Travis Kelce coming out of the draft really frequently, and you don't see any other tight ends in the league that's like this besides Travis Kelce and George Kittle. Kyle Pitts is going to be a can't-miss talent, and I don't think the Falcons should miss on that. If they do end up going with Penei Sewell, the offensive tackle, that'll be also a great pick for them to give Matt Ryan some protection. But I don't think you let Kyle Pitts slip. I don't think you let Kyle Pitts go to another team when you have the opportunity to draft them here and now, and you have a need for weapons at the tight end since they. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to have a tough selection at number 5. They're going to have the wide receiver that their quarterback is very comfortable with staring at them right in the draft. But right now, you got to draft for need and you got to draft for importance. So with the number 5 overall pick, the Cincinnati Bengals select Penei Sewell from Oregon. Joe Burrow got hurt last year, tore his ACL, and it's from a lack of protection. You got to get a guy that this guy can trust to protect his blind side. You want to protect your franchise player and your quarterback, and the torn ACL in his rookie year is not the way you want him to start his career. You take this guy, Penei Sewell, who is a dominant blocker and can block at all levels, as you can see here in this highlight film. He's a fast, mobile tackle, and he's aggressive. He's one of my favorite players in the draft. He gets after it, he gets out there, and he loves getting those pancake blocks that's going to help the Cincinnati Bengals out a lot. The Bengals are also another team that have a lot of holes, but you got to protect your most valuable asset, which is going to be Joe Burrow. It's going to be really hard to pass up on a talent like Ja'Marr Chase, especially seeing that him and Burrow have that connection. But it's their job to draft his protection, to draft his insurance policy. They have a lot of talented receivers on this team for him to throw the ball to, and this is a deep receiver draft. And they can still get him a receiver that's really good later in the draft. But there's no other tackle that's just as good as Penei Sewell. We see him in the highlights, him making hard blocks, tough challenges, and like I said, getting to the next level and engaging with the block at that point. There's only 2 really good tackles in this draft, and if you have one that's there, you can't pass up on it if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. They have to get their insurance policy in place and get Joe Burrow someone that he can trust on this blind side for years to come. The Dolphins seem to be all in on Tua this year. They traded away Ryan Fitzpatrick and started to acquire weapons to put around him. And I think they continue that trend with the number 6 overall pick, Ja'Marr Chase, LSU. Ja'Marr Chase is easily the best receiver in the draft. He's a freakish beast. He's a monster. He can catch anything that's in his vicinity. You just got to get it there. And that's the kind of weapon that Tua needs for this team. A guy that he can just throw the ball up to and go get it. And Ja'Marr Chase is that guy. He can be a possession receiver. He can be a red zone threat. He can be a downfield threat. He's also a guy that you can throw a screen pass to and he take it 50 yards for a touchdown. Ja'Marr Chase is a dangerous weapon and can be used in almost any offense. He's versatile, and he's a guy that's just going to be scaring cornerbacks for years to come in this league. I think the Dolphins are going to have a nice offensive core when you call Will Fuller, Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, and now Ja'Marr Chase. They're going to be hard to keep up with, and in that division, they're going to need to score a lot of points to keep pace with some of those teams. The biggest challenge for them is going to be the Bills, but last year they were competitive with the Bills. Them getting another weapon like Ja'Marr Chase is just going to make them even more dangerous, make them even more a threat, and they're going to really lean into that wide receiver U title that they've been getting. Ja'Marr Chase didn't play last year, but undoubtedly he's still the best wide receiver in this draft and a great pick for the Dolphins to pick up. The Detroit Lions offense is going to look a lot different than it has in previous years. They're going to have a new quarterback, and they're also going to have a new wide receiver. Starting with pick number 7, Jaylen Waddle, Alabama. Jaylen Waddle is explosive, skillful, and has some of the best moves I've ever seen at a wide receiver. He draws the comparison to Tyreek Hill, and I can see that because he's the only one that can go from 0 to 100 in just 2 steps. His stutter step is mean, his dead leg is crazy, and he's just an all-around great receiver to have for someone to throw the ball to. The Lions are going to go with Jared Goff this year, and Jared Goff's the type of guy who needs a big receiver that can make his flaws look like successes. Jaylen Waddle's going to be that guy for them. The injury is not really a concern. He sat out most of the year and even showed a lot of his heart showing up in that championship game and only playing on one wheel. Jaylen Waddle has the size, he has the blinding speed, and he has the moves to juke any corner that's in the league. Jaylen Waddle is going to be an excellent pick for the Detroit Lions as they try to rebuild this team and start with this offense. They lost Kenny Golladay this year. They also lost Marvin Jones. That was their 2 leading receivers last year. So getting a guy like Jaylen Waddle who can come in and make an instant impact on this team is going to be a great pick for them. They could also go Rashawn Slater here, the offensive tackle from Northwestern. But I see that they have to go receiver. They need to get a big guy that they can trust. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did go Slater, and that wouldn't be a horrible pick. But the best pick for them to be competitive next year will be Jalen Waddle. The Carolina Panthers have been one of the hardest teams to predict this offseason. They gave up a handful of draft picks to get Sam Darnold, and earlier today they traded away Teddy Bridgewater for just a bag of chips. That could mean they can go Justin Fields with this pick, but with Sam Darnold only being 23, that doesn't make very much sense to me. What does make a lot of sense? Getting him a deep field threat to throw the ball to. With number 8 overall, DeVonta Smith, Alabama. DeVonta Smith is the Heisman winner for this year. It's hard-pressed to find someone that watches football that doesn't know his name and that doesn't know what he did this season. If you're going to give Sam Darnold the keys to the car, it might as well be a Lamborghini, because that's exactly what DeVonta Smith is. A downfield blazer, a guy who you can throw the ball up to and the defender going to be 5 yards behind him. He put in an excellent season this year, threw up ridiculous numbers at a wide receiver selection. Now, Carolina does have a lot of wide receivers, a lot of talented guys, and all of them are fast. But this guy, DeVonta Smith, is going to be for the low, and he's going to be a guy that's going to make an impact on this team almost immediately. With Christian McCaffrey in the backfield, play-action plays with DeVonta Smith streaking down the sideline are going to be ridiculous. And Sam Darnold's never had a receiver like this to throw to in his whole career. I think the Panthers should go all in on Sam Darnold, give him the 2 years that he deserves, with you putting all the talent that you can around him, and then reevaluate and maybe get a quarterback later in the draft. But like I said, Justin Fields is a can't-miss quarterback. If he's there and they take him, I kind of understand you want to have an embarrassment riches at the most important position, which is quarterback. But Sam Darnold does deserve the opportunity to show what he can do on a great team. Also, I want you guys to look out for maybe Rashawn Slater going here, get some extra protection on that O-line, seeing that they do have offensive weapons. But I think DeVonta Smith is going to be the one that can turn this team around. He's the most impactful for them at this spot. Earlier today, the Denver Broncos traded a 6th-round pick to the Carolina Panthers for quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. Now their top 2 quarterbacks on that roster is Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. Neither of these quarterbacks really have much of a future with this organization. So I think with the number 9 overall pick, the Denver Broncos select Justin Fields, Ohio State. This is a proven guy, proven quarterback, and he's played against some of the stiffest competition that any quarterback could play against in 2 years. I think that Justin Fields is going to be a steal if he falls this low for the Denver Broncos. You got Bridgewater as a bridge for him, no pun intended, but I don't think he needs much time to develop in this league. He's a guy with a strong arm, got the feet, got the legs, and he's tough as nails. So the Denver Broncos getting this guy is going to be great. It's a highly contested pick because they might not go there, seeing that they have 2 quarterbacks now. They might end up going with Trey Lance if they like them better, which a lot of people do have them higher. But I do think Justin Fields is the second best quarterback in this draft. And if they go quarterback with Fields on the board, it has to be him. He has to be the pick, especially if he has time to sit behind a veteran and watch the game develop in front of his eyes. But Justin Fields is a guy that looks pro-ready. He's played in the big games. He's played in the moment. Clemson was a high defense. He scored 6 touchdowns on them. He had broken ribs playing against Alabama in the national championship game, which is the highest stage you can get in college. And he balled out and performed. So Justin Fields is going to be a great NFL prospect, going to be a great pro. I think if he gets an opportunity, he's going to ball out, especially in Denver with a team that has a bunch of wide receivers for him to throw to and a solid tight end to catch the ball as well. But as I said, they could go Trey Lance. They could even go Michael Parsons with this pick, the defensive player from Penn State. They can go Rashawn Slater from Northwestern. Them picking up Teddy Bridgewater does not tie them down to any single player. But I feel like the best player available on the board right now, especially for that organization who hasn't had a good quarterback in a long time, is going to be Justin Fields. The Dallas Cowboys are in an interesting spot in this year's draft. They've locked up their star quarterback, and they have plenty of weapons for him to throw the ball to. But last year, their defense was atrocious. Every wide receiver they ran into got full eaten off of their cornerbacks. But that changed after this number 10 pick for the Dallas Cowboys, Patrick Surtain, Alabama. Revis Island was a stint in the NFL that lasted for a long time. I think now we're going to see Patrick Island. Patrick Surtain is a shutdown corner, a guy that doesn't need much help over the top, and a guy that you can put on a star wide receiver and he clamp him up, lock him down. This is one of the things that he specialized in with playing for Alabama. And in the SEC, you see the most pro-ready talent in that division. So Patrick Surtain was able to ball out and had an amazing season this past year. He's one of the best corners in the draft. I know he's equally compared to J.C. Horn and even Caleb Farley. But to me, this guy has shown the consistency. He's played at the high level, and he's shown the ability to play one-on-one football, which is what the Cowboys need the most. Diggs is a very strong safety, but he had no help out there in the backfield on that defensive end. Give him a corner like Patrick Surtain, where he don't have to worry about that side of the field and he can focus on one side of the field or the middle. That's going to make Diggs even more dangerous, makes this defense even more dangerous. I'm of the belief that if the Cowboys don't go Surtain, it has to be offensive line, but I doubt that they go offensive line right now. They may be able to address that later in the draft, but right now I feel like they need to go mostly defensive picks for this year's draft. They need another edge rusher. They need a linebacker after Sean Lee retired. But Patrick Surtain is going to be a nice start, great value there at number 10 overall. And he's going to be a shutdown corner for this league and for any wide receiver that he goes against. And there you have it. My top 10 picks for this year's draft. Now, I don't think each organization will go with the player that I pick, but I do feel like that these are the players that help these organizations develop, get better, and be more competitive for next season. Now it's time for the comment of the day. Leave a comment down below saying which team that I picked wrong on. What team that you think will pick a different player than the one that I chose, and your reason why. Let's get a healthy conversation going down in the box below. If you like this type of content, make sure you like and hit the subscribe button for your boy. I appreciate your time, and I'm out. See you next time.